Hello, everybody. Welcome to 1v1 Boss Rush Podcast, content creator and interview show. And I am your host this episode, Eddie B, joining me from the Delvin Cox Experience and various other podcasts that you have seen him do. Y'all know I host a lot. I think this man just got to my level. Now he'll understand all the hosting and shows that I do. That he now does. Everybody, please welcome the one and only Delvin Cox from the Delvin Cox Experience and other podcasts. Hi.
I'm doing good, Eddie. How you doing, brother?
I am doing so good. We met on Twitter just randomly, and we've been friends ever since and doing each other podcasts and talking and everything. And I am true.
Years ago, actually, huh?
Yeah, about what, three or 4 years?
Yeah.
I did 3 or 4 years. Yeah. It's been a while. How have you been in this quarantine
I'm
time,
doing
first of all?
I'm doing pretty good, man. All things considered, I'm doing pretty good. You know, posting a lot of podcasts now. Too many podcasts, but it's fun. I'm still enjoying it. I still like to challenge myself every day with it, and I like to see people's responses to it.
Yes, it's been really good. I've been listening here and there. Everybody got so many podcasts out and trying to listen to each one that you like. Okay, this is 17 podcasts in one day, another podcast, 17 in another day. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's really hard to listen to everybody's podcast, especially when you're fans of the person. And I feel like people take offense to it when you don't listen to their podcast. And it's sometimes you just don't have time. And I try to listen to everybody's podcast equally in terms of, like, there are certain podcasts I listen to weekly and I keep in my rotation. And then when I finish up those podcasts, then I go to the little bundle of podcasts, the people I know and people podcasts I like that maybe I've missed a couple episodes and I try to catch up then. And I usually have time to do stuff like that, whether I'm playing games or sometimes in my downtime when I don't feel like playing games and I don't feel like watching TV, I'll just sit on my couch and just put my out in and just listen to a podcast.
Yeah, same here. Had you been doing anything during this quarantine time? Like, had you been staying at home? Had you been working? Like, what have you personally been doing?
Well, I've been working all through the quarantines, like since this whole thing started. I still had to continue going to work every day.
Same here.
Everything. So it didn't affect me in that aspect. But what it did do, because my grandmother's elderly, she's 80 years old now, so that made me have to go shopping for her now. So and that she would usually want to do herself, because she's 80 years old, but she's not like, you know how you see other 80-year-old people who are very slow in the uptake, can't walk around and stuff like that. She likes to do things for herself. So with this whole quarantine thing, she literally can't do things for herself in terms of like go grocery shopping and things like that. So I had to take the mantle and run with that. So that's made things interesting. And otherwise than that, I've been in my free time, what little free time I have been podcasting and gaming.
How has Florida been for you? Like, did some of the people just like made you be like, come on, people, we got to be better in this state? Or were you just like, yep, it's the same people I expected who will not follow rules?
Florida's going Florida, man. That's how I just kind of deal with that, man. You know, I look at the situation like how fast they're trying to open up the economy, and I get it. I get that people want to go back to the norm, but my whole question about it is, it's better to be safe than sorry. Yes. In terms of just reopening up too prematurely, and then these COVID cases just jump right back up to where they were, or even worse, and then we got to close back down again for a longer period of time. I think the best way to handle this is just to get it out of the way. Get out where you don't have to worry about it no more. Like, get it to a point where it's consequential, because truth be told, no matter when we open up, there's going to be losses.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But we we need, it's our duty as Americans to minimize that as much as possible, to keep it like 100 or under, as opposed to thousands of people. And that's how I kind of look at it. And I know people have been crazy, like people want to go on the beaches and stuff, want to have parties or acting out, and some people choose to like boycott and do silly things because they can't get a haircut. Like, really? But you know, the whole thing is this is for the best of us, because right now it seems like a hassle. But imagine if you go out to go to one of your loved ones and they get COVID from you and then they pass away. That's on you. That's something you have to live with for the rest of your life. And I don't think, me personally, I'm not comfortable with that. I would be completely heartbroken if I found out I had COVID and passed it to my grandmother and she died from it. That would be heartbreaking to me.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's good that you're doing okay. Good that the family's doing okay. We're going to get into the Delvin Cox Experience because that is your main podcast. How
Yes.
did you come about that podcast? And do you also want to tell what it is, in fact?
Okay, I'll get to both parts, actually. Where should I start? Let me start on how I came with the podcast first so I can give you a better idea of what it is. Originally, I was doing a podcast with my friend. His name's Lyric. He's a rapper. Well, I think we were doing it had to be 2016 because it was election year. And it was right before Trump got elected. We were doing a podcast called the Mic Drop Podcast.
Yes.
And we were getting traction and stuff. It was a really cool podcast. Me and him would go on there and we kind of just speak our minds. And sometimes it'd be controversial, sometimes it's not. Because the reason why we did it is because while I'm a calm, cool, collective person, my boy Vision, or Lyric, which is rap names, of course, he's more of a person who's not afraid to say controversial opinions. Like, one of the things he said was that he was one of the first people I heard say that Trump's going to win. Like, he straight up said it, like, as soon as he got elected, he said, Trump's going to respect, soon as he got into the campaign contest, he said, Trump's going to win. I'm telling you this right now. And I said, why do you think that? He has no political experience. He says, because he's a celebrity. And people are stupid, and people are going to vote for celebrity, and people are going to see themselves in him. And by gosh, he was 100% right. So we were doing that podcast for a while. I want to say probably like a year or so. And what happened with a lot of podcasters, life hit him hard where he was having problems after problems. And it got to the point where he really couldn't do the podcast. I didn't want it to be a burden on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, like, you know what? Let's table this podcast and let me do my own thing. And while coming up with my own thing, I was trying to find hosts and stuff, and nobody was quite fitting that mold. And 2016, 2017 was a different time in terms of like trying to find people who want to do podcasts. I want to say Delvin Cox Experience came out 2018. I want to say, if I'm correct, June 2018, I want to say.
Okay.
That sounds right, because it was my first episode is an E3 episode with Donnie from PSVG, which is funny because now I'm on the PSVG network, and Nathan, who's also a part of PSVG. That was my first episode of Delvin Cox Experience. But while looking for people to kind of be my co-host and stuff like that, I couldn't find no one I actually thought was consistent or I gelled with to the point where I'm like, okay, this guy should be my co-host. So I ended up just saying, what if I just went on the internet and found people to interview and just kind of did it Arsenio Hall style and just tag people on the podcast. And I did that. First episode, I want to talk about E3. I knew Donnie, who was a big, like PSVG was still not necessarily big as it is now, but it was kind of a well-known entity because PSVG is kind of like I don't know if you saw, they was in Twinfinite and stuff like that. They've gotten guests like Ryan McCaffrey and Colin Moriarty and stuff. They're doing big things.
Yes.
It's really cool. But when I got Donnie on my show, it wasn't nowhere near to that level yet. So we did E3 and stuff like that. So it turned out pretty good. Then I was just start asking people when I started interviewing people about podcasting and things that they did. And as I got better at it, I started just looking for more and more interesting people. And I think I interviewed Chalfie, which was cool because me and him became fast friends after that. And he was the one who kind of said, I like the way you do your podcast. It's like you're on a one-man mission to unite the culture to diversity because it's so diverse. And I just kind of stuck with that. I kind of like, this is what I do. This is what makes my podcast unique because I have on people from all walks of life. It's not just a gaming podcast or a political podcast. It can be any one of those things at any point in time. And I've always been fair in the terms of like, kind of like Rogan. Rogan does a very similar thing to me in terms of I will have anyone on my podcast and hear their point of view. And we can have an honest, positive conversation about their point of view about almost anything. And that's what I built my podcast on. And as I got better with it, I started adding things onto it like the 5 for 5, which is 5 questions, 5 answers to get the ball rolling. I did that because usually when you see people, especially interview podcasts, when they interviewing people, they always start off the podcast off with like a, hey, how you doing? What's going on with you and stuff like that. It's kind of always a slow build.
Yes.
But the 5 for 5 is interesting to me because what it does is it just comes right out the gate and gets people into the conversation because I ask these questions and find out a little bit about their background and stuff like that without them really knowing it. It almost feels like a game show type feel in terms of like, I'm asking them fun questions like, give me your top 5 superheroes and things like that. And it opens them up more to having fun and being relaxed. So when we get to the serious questions, they're having fun.
Yes. Yeah. You had me on the show. I think the first time you had me, I don't think it was a one-on-one. I think it's when I brought up Christina Aguilera with the hip hop thing.
Yes.
And all of you guys just like, wait, what? I'm just like, yeah. I'm like, they're like, no. And y'all was laughing. And I was just like, no. If you actually go check out her album that she did with with Premier,
which I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah, you would literally see how many like hip hop tracks that, I mean, of course, the hip hop with Redman for her second album. I'm just like the songs that she got with Alicia Keys. I'm like, her second album has some pop and R&B mixed to it, but like her third, I think her following album was the DJ Premier one. I'm like, that first album is pure hip hop. And to see her and what was good about it is just like it went from laughter to interest.
Yes,
and that's kind of how the Delvin Cox Experience is that you can have laughter, but when you start having these deep conversations, things become interesting. You're intrigued and you want to learn. And what's so good about it is that everything is honest. Everything is honest. Everything is open. And that makes a flow better. You're not like, what I'm going. No, it's just like we're having a deep conversation. We're having a good conversation, and we're having fun. Our answers might be different that time, but I'm just like, you're opening up and being honest about your answers. And that's what I like about the Delvin Cox Experience. It's the experience for not only you as a podcast and a content creator, but it's an experience for the person who is speaking and the listeners.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I couldn't explain it better myself. It's about all of our experiences, whether it's me listening to the conversation that you're having with me or the listeners finding about something they didn't never know about, whether it's somebody who is from Texas and is a big gun supporter, or somebody who's from Detroit who's vehemently against gun support and wants more laws to prohibit that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Delvin Cox Experience has a home for both to have honest and positive conversations about that. And I think I wish, not think, I wish America was more open to that.
I think I think at a point in time we will become open, or there are parts of the country in America that are open, but there are some people who haven't been trained to, not trained. There's people who haven't given the chance to be open in a sense. And what I kind of mean from being open is that yes, of course, open minded, but open to be able to say why you believe it and give some context, but also be open to see why from the other side there's a not so much a disagreement. There's another viewpoint about why, you know.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear the other side, and it's okay to disagree, and
Hmm.
it's okay to agree to disagree. I think, but it's important to learn what the other side's thinking, just for your own benefit. Whether it's somebody you don't even agree with at all, but wouldn't you like to know their playbook? Like, if you're a football player and you can sit down with the head coach of the opposing team and learn their playbook, why not do that? So when you
Yeah.
see the plays coming, you know what's coming for it. You know, it's always best to arm yourself with knowledge about every situation because you'll be well equipped and better to deal with it, as opposed to just going to situations blind and letting people take advantage of you.
Right. Research is always important. If you're willing to put in the work just to say stuff, then before you say these things, take some time to do the research. I'm trying to be better at researching stuff before I go in and do things. Um, but I'm also able to be like, okay, let's be open and of course, let's be respectful and let's also have fun and laugh. But, you know, let's make sure that what we're saying, that we stand by what we say until we have epiphany that, you know what, I did have that belief at that time, but over time I start learning about stuff, and now I kind of want to change what I believe in a sense. And that's a individual journey for some people. I think when you put out various podcasts, whether it be about movies, art and culture, political, religion and stuff, you will always have some kind of opinion that agrees or disagrees. But once you start learning more about that topic and about that subject, you kind of see you kind of see things from a different point of view, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I
So,
think one of the most important thing for podcasters, I don't know how many podcasters is listening to this episode or not, but this is one of the things that you should take up and learn for yourself. It is very easy to do. Be genuine. Be
hmm
who you are. Don't turn yourself around and put on a show just to get people to listen. People will listen to you if you're genuine and you're who you are. Eventually,
yes,
you'll find that audience. Now, how big or small that audience is up to you and the work you put in. But if you're genuine, eventually that audience will come and that audience will be loyal to you.
yeah,
And there's plenty of people in my audience that don't always agree with things I say. You know, I always crack jokes about Batman versus Superman, and Joey yells at me about it, but he knows that genuinely, I genuinely hate that movie.
Batman versus Superman. I
Yeah.
actually like. I like that for it was. I think me and you talked about it. Yes, I seen the discussions you and Joey has had, and I have been like, let me get something to eat and just click on these few flies. Um, so Batman versus Superman. I think at that time it was I think Captain America 3 had also came out, or I think it came out after it. And it was kind of weird. Yeah, it was kind of weird. There was some the action that Batman versus Superman was missing, Captain America had it. The story and the emotion and some of the look that Captain America didn't have, Batman had. And it was just like there are things that each other are missing that's in each other's movie.
I can see that.
You
I
know,
think,
it oh go ahead.
and this is my whole thing about Batman vs Superman. I don't dislike the movie at all. I say that because Joey's a jerk and he constantly bashes Marvel movies for no apparent reason whatsoever, just to irk my nerves. But my whole thing with Batman vs Superman is this: is something I keep telling people about often. Let DC movies be DC movies.
Mm.
They don't have to be as good as a Marvel movie. They just need to be good DC movies. There's nothing wrong with Marvel is on its own level. And I don't think we'll probably ever see something like this ever again with movies in terms of like Marvel's put out 22 movies that have consistently been good. All in one big connected universe that comes together to make a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
DC put out a masterpiece of movies in terms of the Dark Knight trilogy, but they've also put out consistently good movies for a while, whether it's the Batman movies, the Superman movies that were really good back when they came out this time.
And people might disagree. A lot of people disagree with me, but I love Suicide Squad. I really thought that was a good movie, and I think what a lot of people didn't understand why I liked it. I'm just like, I like the action and the look of the movie because the comedy is there, but I'm just like, if you're an action fan and you love good choreographed action, Suicide Squad had that. And that's what you mostly come for a superhero movie. If they provide some really cool action that's amazing, you're going to really love the movie. I really don't hear a lot of people talking about character development and stuff like that, or the actors and stuff. You know, I normally hear that it was this cool moment, and then when you see the end of how stuff goes, that's what most people are into, in a sense.
Yeah. I like the DC movies. I especially like them now that they've kind of went away from the Marvel formula and said, hey, let's just make good movies. Like Joker, excellent movie. Has nothing to do with anything they've done. They just made a separate movie about the Joker, and it works.
Yes.
I thought Wonder Woman, incredible movie. I like Shazam a lot. I like Aquaman a lot. But when they tried to kind of shoehorn this universe in, it didn't work. And that's okay. They don't have to be on that level of Marvel and make all these Marvel type movies. They're fine being DC. And I will counter that and say that they kind of did that already with the DC animated films.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
The DC animated films have been doing the exact same thing the Marvel movies have been doing. And nobody talks about how good those movies are.
The DC animated movies are fantastic. Some of them are okay. Some of them just like I'm not feeling this one, but I mean they have done a fantastic job with a lot of their movies. That Batman versus Suicide Squad one, I cannot say that for some other reason. That one was really good. Batman Ninja, yes. Shoot, yeah, that Batman Ninja was amazing. Yes. And they just released the Justice League Dark one. And I'm just like, oh, this is a really cool movie. Like, they really go dark, and it's R-rated.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Really well.
Yes. You know. And Constantine, as a TV show,
was really good.
Really good.
I think it was really good.
Yes.
I think that just we're getting to a point where we as viewers and listeners are getting too spoiled because we have so much content.
Yeah.
Like, everything has to be a masterpiece. We can't just have a 7 or a 6. It's okay to enjoy a movie that's a 7 or a 6, or a song that's just decent. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with enjoying content that's just fine. I think people have just kind of gotten to the point where like, oh, if it's not this level good, it's not good at all. No, there is a middle section. There is a lane where a 7 movie or a 7 video game is quite fine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
And even if it doesn't meet your expectations, sometimes it meets somebody else's expectations. And you should be, and you as a person who may be finding that out, you should be good with it. Be like, oh, this person liked this movie. Well, that's cool. I might have some problems with it, but it's also cool that you like it. Like, I keep saying stuff about the Grand Theft Auto series. I'm using this as examples because a lot of people love that series for a lot of stuff, and I always have problems with that series. But I don't get mad at. I'm not. I never talked about how bad they're. I mean, I don't talk about their sales. I don't talk about what people really get out of it or anything. I mostly talk about the technical problems for that series. That's all I literally talk about. But if it's doing 2 billion in sales, congratulations to Rockstar. They made a game that deserves it for some people. I don't
Yep.
believe it, but I still respect that people go out and get it. It so, but we're gonna move on because you talked about being on PSVG, and you host a PlayStation podcast.
This is true.
How did that happen?
It's kind of interesting because their original host couldn't do the show no more. 'Cause, life happens and they just didn't have time to do a PlayStation show anymore. So PSVG kind of reached out to people asking, hey, anybody interested in doing this? And originally I was like, let me see if I can help find somebody. Because that was my actual intent, to help find somebody to do the show. And for somehow, some way, they was like, why don't you just do the show? And I was like, kind of don't have time to do another show. When are you guys recording this show? This is Inside Baseball. Sundays early morning. And I was like, I literally don't do nothing Sundays early morning. It's like Sundays at we record like Sundays at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing anything Sundays at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. So I'm like, I can actually do it at that time. And I said, okay. And I got the ball rolling again. 30 episodes in, PSXP, we haven't missed a week yet.
Are you excited for the PlayStation 5 reveal?
Yeah, I think it's about time. They've been dangling around for us too long now. I think that they should have said something by now. It's getting to the point where people want to start pre-ordering it. They should start opening that type of stuff up. We want to know the price. We want to at least see the box. Yes. Because I remember the prototype they were showing were butt ugly. And people were having a fit about it because people were saying, oh, that's how it really looks and stuff like that. And I don't think it looks like that, but I'm excited to see what it does look like and how it feels and how it plays. And most importantly, the price. To see if we can even afford this thing, because the way they're talking makes it sound like it's going to be very expensive.
Well, that's kind of for Series X also. When we find out what the price for these systems are, is it going to be enough for us to warrant a purchase for one system or both systems or neither, in the sense? Because I don't. This is one fear that I have for Series X and I have for PlayStation, and it's mostly going to be the upcoming games reveals. Are we still going to be getting these CGI computer graphics that is not truly representative of the game? Like, you'll actually see that in the game, or is it these systems powerful enough that when they do an announcement for a game, this is actually what you're going to get in the game? And I wonder, is that going to be with PlayStation's reveal? Because people are going to start comparing. Well, they had better games to reveal and stuff, and we got to see gameplay as Microsoft didn't do. I'm just like, if we look at the description and it says in-game engine is running on the engine at the developer's studio, and it's not running on PlayStation 5 hardware.
I think it's very important to point that out, and I think we've gotten to that point now where it almost doesn't matter because games are beautiful now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, seeing like how The Last of Us looks, that was on PS3, and even the up-res version even looks good on PS4. But we've gotten to the point where games are looking. It's almost no game that doesn't look beautiful. Like, even the Switch, which is underpowered compared to the other two systems, is putting out games like Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey that are gorgeous looking games.
The art style, I think that's what's going to be the thing with Sony and Microsoft, is that you guys are going to go for this realistic 3D kind of look for your games, and Nintendo is still going to go for these various art styles, and it's going to depend on who not who does it better, but who impression is going to last longer. And a lot of people call me biased because I'm Nintendo. I'm a Nintendo fanboy, but I'm just like, if you look at Nintendo, a lot of their stuff is going to last longer. It's going to be years after generations before things don't look quite up. A lot of the Xbox and some of the PlayStation games, they're going to look good at that time, and then when you move on, go back, maybe even one generation, it looks dated in a sense, and it doesn't look impressive again.
Because the art style.
Yes, because of that art style.
I get what you're saying about that, because Nintendo games have this art style that's kind of evergreen in terms of, it's like Breath of the Wild 20 years from now will still look beautiful because of how it looks. And I would say this, another advantage I think Nintendo has over both the systems is price. The Switch, and I don't think Nintendo, for that matter, will ever put out a console that's $500.
Right.
And whereas Microsoft has no problem with it, and Sony has no problem with it, I think that price thing is going to make a big difference because, yeah, we have older gamers like us who buys games, but you know who else buys games? Little kids. 10, 12-year-old, 8, 9-year-old kids. And they want to play games too. And 9 times out of 10, mommy's not spending $600 for a game console.
To play Fortnite, and only Fortnite.
But she will $200-300 for a game console for her kids for Christmas. This is a big difference. That price difference is going to be a big problem for people to overcome in terms of these next-gen consoles. And I say this on PSXP all the time, that, gamers are going to love it and gamers are going to flock towards it. But you have to think about the people that are middle class, the mothers who buy these for their kids. Like, at some point, you have to also appeal to them too, because that's how you get to 100 million copies sold, sold.
And we don't even include in the fact just the TV itself that you're going to be playing it on has to be compatible with that system. You're not going to get the best if that system in that TV can't connect. Like if your TV don't have HDR or 4K, you're not going to see the benefits that system can provide.
Yeah,
in a sense. And so you gotta
what I think about.
Yeah, so you got a PlayStation 5 or a Series X, and you'd be like, this is like a Xbox One or a 360 game. Well, your TV is old enough that it doesn't recognize the system, and it doesn't produce what that system really is. So now mommy has to go out and get you a $200 or $300 4K HDR TV. And depending on what size it is, you have to pay for it. She's going to have to pay more money on top of the system, on top of the game and controllers. She might be hitting close to $1,000 just for you to have that entertainment.
Yeah. And a lot of people aren't going to do that. Like, And I think that I said again, that's what Switch has the advantage in terms of like, hey, a kid can either play the handheld or they can play it in the
Mm-hmm.
dock. So it's more appealing to parents in that fashion. Whereas the PlayStation, you're gonna have to have a TV that's really nice to run it to the dimensions you want it to run at. Same thing with Series X. And I don't know if people are willing to want to put in that extra money to get that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That
Yes.
you brought up a really good point with that. The fact that to get the full experience, a lot of people are gonna have to pay essentially for the system and a new TV. That's $1,000 investment.
Mm-hmm. You know, and that's definitely with the climate of the economy right now. We literally got to see how Black Friday goes. We got to see how Christmas goes. Will it be enough that even if there's not a lot of systems out, are the games gonna make the worthy purchase? You know, for some people, for a Series X, Halo Infinite for right now is leading that. For PlayStation 5, we don't know yet. You know, so we got to see what they're going to have, and definitely by the time you guys see this, they may have already revealed it. I know a lot of people are making a big event out of it, you know, streaming it, watching this stuff, taking notes and talking about it. uh do you think, like personally, definitely for you with your PlayStation podcast, do you think they have to knock it out the box for you guys to really have something to talk about? Or do you think that whatever they show, you guys just gotta cover and just be like, they didn't really do it for us to have enough to make a conversation?
But they have to be. I think it has to be impressive at this point. Like people been waiting for this reveal since last year when Xbox revealed theirs. And like, hey, here's our box. This is how it looks, and this is the game we're coming out with it, Halo. And I
Hmm.
think that it's important that they knock it out the park. They say, hey, this is our box too. We're ready for all this type of stuff. And they very much well can. But with all this stuff that's been going on about it and stuff, they gotta kind of just kill it.
Uh, well, let me ask you, because you guys probably covered this. The state of play, it kind of has changed in a sense. They had did this um one title dedicated state of play. Do you think Sony made the right move? And on your podcast, like, how do you guys feel about that? Like, definitely, like with Ghost of Tsushima.
I think the state of play with Ghost of Tsushima helped a lot. I think that that game needed it.
Hmm.
I don't think The Last of Us needed it. It helped, but I don't think it needed it because it's The Last of Us. With everything that's going on with it, you know, with it being so close, it's just The Last of Us sells itself. Just get it out there to the audience at this point in time.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of people who watched it and reacted to it, because I told one of my friends, he uh did I think he did the lighting for The Last of Us 2. Um and I told him, um and I just tagged them in a tweet, and I was just like, I don't want to see or learn more of The Last of Us 2, because uh I want to go in fresh, not knowing. And I'm just like, this is not a disrespect to Naughty Dog, not a disrespect to Sony. And so if this person that I tagged them, and I'm like, if you just happen to see my tweet or anything, just know that I'm not doing it as a disrespectful thing. I'm doing it because I want to go in fresh. And a lot of people who seen that tweet kind of resemble the same thing. They literally want to go in fresh. And I think they're doing it to show that whether they know the spoilers or not, they really want to show their support for that game.
Yeah, I think that's important because Ghost of Tsushima is not a proven quantity.
Mhm.
People didn't know what that was. They didn't. Sounds cool. We seen that one little thing earlier, last year about it,
Yes.
and we got nothing else. Whereas The Last of Us, we know The Last of Us. It's many of our favorite games of all time. So we just want to hear the rest of the story. We want to experience firsthand. We don't need to see anything else about it. Once we got the logo and stuff, let's rock and roll. Just get it to us so we can see it.
Yes.
And certain games kind of just do that for us. Like, whether it's The Last of Us, whether it's Zelda, for that matter. I think Zelda has that in terms of like, hey, just show us the beginning of it, show us a little bit just to get us excited for it, and just let us go out there and figure it out. Last of Us is one of those games that you want to do that with. You don't need to see story trailers, 100 story trailers are selling and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The Last of Us sells itself.
I really do wonder, um, will it snag Game of the Year nominations because of this controversy and people proving whether it was good, whether they had a lot of sales. I wonder if this Game of the Year, so if it does get a nomination, to prove all those people who spoiled it that their actions didn't do nothing to
It
discredit that
depends.
game.
It depends on if it's good or not and how good is it. Like, I'm seeing, because not necessarily early impressions are coming out about it, but people are mumbling about it, and you see them saying like it's really good and stuff like that. But this is not a regular year. Final
Hmm.
Fantasy VII Remake is also really, really good. You also got Cyberpunk coming out later this year that everybody's expecting to be really, really good. Then you had this game Neo 2.
Yeah,
Was it Neo 2? It came out
Neo
this year?
2. Yeah,
Yeah,
Neo 2 came out this year,
Neo
which
2
I need to go get.
is also really, really good. Then you have Ghost of Tsushima that looks like it might be really, really good. So it's kind of a thing like you have a battle this year. We very much can see a year where The Last of Us doesn't get as many accolades as we expected to get because we have so much stuff coming out that is actually really good.
And I was talking to somebody about this. I think my friend Brody from Diggity Podcast. You guys should go check him and Jeff out. Truly great guys. I think when talking about his 1v1, I think I mentioned that even though all these big budget games are coming out and may do well and get these high scores, it's a possibility that Animal Crossing might still destroy all of them and
See, I
take
forgot
Game of the
that too.
Year.
Animal Crossing is one of those games that transcends gaming almost. Last of Us
Hmm.
does too in terms of having a movie and stuff like that. But facts is facts. You're not getting The Last of Us for your 12-year-old kid. But
Yes.
12 kids are playing Animal Crossing. Adults are playing Animal Crossing. Celebrities are playing Animal Crossing. There are so many people who are interested in that game where I can even see people just saying, hey, Animal Crossing is the game of the year. And even Fortnite for that man. Look at the things Fortnite are doing in terms of
Hmm.
having full concerts in the game.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It is. I think it's just not for me for some reason. Um, not saying that I don't like Fortnite or anything. Um, I just think that that game is still designed for kids
Yeah, I
and
get
people who want to stream it and show off what they could do with it. That's great. But I guess I want to see kids get more challenging stuff. That's the more impressive stuff that I want to see because of course my retro stuff had Mega Man 2 and Michael Jackson Moonwalker and some of the other RPGs and stuff and action games and stuff. As a kid trying to go all the way to Mario Lost levels, you kind of don't get that nowadays where kids are literally playing hard games. Bloodborne and stuff don't count. Uh,
I get what
where where like you have to learn multiple skills that carry over. Because a kid could be good at Bloodborne, but then you can't play Devil May Cry.
I get what you're saying, because when we were coming up, it was more of a games was just hard. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't a choice of having easy games to play or not. It was just like, well, this game is super hard. You have to figure out how to beat it. Like the Ninja Turtle game, I remember with the whole water level that used to drive people crazy and stuff like that.
Yes.
And that's just Battletoads. They hard games with the norm. Mega Man 2, Mega Man in general, and you don't really see that now.
Hmm.
And there's always so much accessibility to make the games easier so people can beat the games and stuff like that. But we kind of had that too with Game Genie. But now Game Genie's kind of built in a lot of games now where you can just like, let's put it on easy mode. I want to beat this game.
Yes, that is true. Uh, as a content creator, what parts do you find hard? Like, if is it sometimes hard to come up with a topic, or is it hard like to find news to create a discussion?
Um, I think the hardest thing is staying inspired in terms, and also getting guests that you want to talk to. That is very super hard in terms of like who to reach out to and who to put on your show and what to take the conversation with each person that's on your show.
Hmm.
I always try to vary my guests. Like my whole thing has always been like try not to have the same guest on 4 times a year. Always try to reach out and get different voices on the show, different personalities. Now, if you have an episode where you have more than one person, that's different. But if you're just doing like the regular Delvin Cox Experience, where it's just a one-on-one interview,
Hmm.
always try to have different people on. So I know people were like, hey, why you haven't had me back on in a while? It's not that I don't want you back on. It's just that I want to reach out to more people and get more people on the show and introduce the world to more people, the listeners to more people. I think it's really cool where you find somebody that you don't know nothing about from a Delvin Cox Experience. Like, I give you a perfect example of it. There's this woman on the internet who I just come across by happenstance. Her name is Vivi. I came across her because she has a dope Twitter. I think her Twitter name is not perfect but broke. And I got to a conversation with her, and she literally had like 10 followers. And she was telling me how she does the podcast, stuff like that, and she's kind of getting her stuff all on her feet. And so I said, hey, just come on my podcast and have a conversation and promote your podcast. And she did, and she did a fantastic job. And she ended up getting on B-Rob's podcast, and I watched her become from a fledgling podcast with 10 followers, and she has a whole bunch of followers now. And me seeing that made me proud to see her come from where she was at when she started to where she's at now, where she's constantly talking to people. People are constantly having conversations about how good her podcast is, and she's becoming successful at it. And it was crazy because when I first saw him and saw her few followers, the first thing that came to my mind was like, she has to be a bot. This can't be a real person, because Vivi is a beautiful black woman. I mean, gorgeous, smart, intelligent. So when you see somebody on Twitter who looks like her and has 10 followers, you're like,
Huh? Wait,
that
what?
doesn't add up. Like, pretty girls get 100 followers on Twitter just for being pretty. And this was actually pretty and has something to say. And I'm proud to be a person who helped get her voice out there. And now she's killing it in the podcast game. She's
That's
doing an
good.
excellent. She's doing awesome. Everybody check out her podcast. It's called Not Perfect But Broke. It's a really interesting podcast where she interviews people. She talks about politics. She talks about life, almost like a life coach thing. It's really good
Hmm.
podcast. Everybody should check out.
That's awesome. Really awesome. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show. And those who kind of see us as black content creators and stuff, um, how do you think we are doing getting the word out to other content creators and to other viewers and stuff, do you think it's really hard for us as Black um, podcasters to get our voice heard? Um, or do you think that as time goes on, we'll be, as time goes on and we continue to put in the work, people will see us for who we are?
I think it is a little hard to get your voice out as a Black content creator. I know I struggle with it at times, but I found myself with a Delvin Cox Experience having so many people on who weren't Black, who were from so many different backgrounds, that I had to kind of this year rein it in and bring more people on the show. And I think it's very important to, now that I've gotten to the point where I'm at, not saying I'm a mega star or anything like that, but I've gotten to the point where I have such a diverse audience. My whole goal now is to get other African Americans that same type of diverse audience. So I think it's important as us as Black podcasters to not only just reach out to our own people, but to reach out to other people too, because that's how you grow. Like, Jesus and Mero, excellent podcasters, excellent TV shows, and stuff like that. Their audience is not only big because they just have nothing but Black people, it's Blacks, Latinos, whites, Asians, different people from every type of culture. I think it's very important for us to do the same thing. And I want to do it for the Delvin Cox Experience. I want to see you do it. I want to see all of us successful. And that's something that I genuinely mean. I'm not the type of person who wants to get on top and forget about people. I want all of us to reach our goal, whether it's 100 million followers or 100 million listeners to 100,000 listeners. It's just very important to me to see people be successful at this, because I want podcasting to grow, and I want people who help podcasting to grow with it as well.
Yes. There's something about, like, there's something about getting your content out there for anyone to check out at any time. And whether you get 1 or 2 listens or no listens at all, I always say be proud of the work that you do. Be proud that you were able to record an episode and put it out for the world to hear. Because one day someone is going to hear your voice. One day you are going to realize at a point that I am building a legacy because I have all of these episodes. And as long as I put myself out there, someone is going to notice, or someone is going to give me a try. And over time, I'm going to get better. Me and Corey and Jesse from Boss Rush, like, we each have our own story on how we got into podcasting. And like, we know that our stuff was kind of rough in the beginning, but we are proud of the work that we did. And over time, we got better. Over time, the production got better. Over time, the conversations, the way we think, the way we just gel with each other and gel with our guests, it got better. And so in my mind, and maybe personally me, I feel like we are building a legacy. So when everything is said and done and we can't podcast no more, there's enough content out there for people to go and check out and be like, I didn't know that's the way they felt about that, but now I can see why they feel that way and how it still is relatable to now. And that's kind of how the Delvin Cox Experience is that you're building a legacy with other podcasters, but you're also building a legacy for yourself, that you have all of these interesting conversations and topics that anybody in the world could go in and listen to and feel like they're part of it. Whether they agree or not, they're going to get something out of it. And sometimes that makes people want to make their own podcast or even be on that particular person's podcast if they'll have them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that I play a small part in getting people to want a podcast or listen to podcasts. That is one of the biggest accomplishments I can think of that I've ever done. If I've touched anybody to want a podcast stuff, I'm totally grateful for that. That's awesome.
Now we just got to get Joey so he can start doing more Skyward casts.
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
But before we go, do you want to go ahead and plug all the podcasts that you do and where people can find you?
Okay, let's go down the list. Check out the Delvin Cox Experience. Anywhere you get podcasts, it's literally everywhere. It's on iTunes, Spotify. I've been putting out YouTube episodes of it with video and stuff, so that's cool. Also, check out the PlayStation Experience. Anywhere you get podcasts, PSXP in short. It's a really cool podcast. Also, whenever we enjoy, do it again. Check out the Skyward Cast with Joey Craig and Game If You Don't Play with Chalfie. Those are the main four I can think of off the top of my head that are really great podcasts that I do, and I'm very proud of each and every one of those podcasts. And also, if you want to check me out on Twitter, check me out at Delvin_Cox. I talk to everybody, and I will be glad to have a conversation with you and answer any question you may have about podcasting or anything for that matter.
Yes. Guys can check out more of 1v1 and other of our content at bossrushgames.com and on Bossrush Games on YouTube. Check out our Twitch and our Mixer page when we go live at Boss Rush Podcast. You guys can check us on Instagram and on Twitter at Boss Rush Podcast. I have been your host, Eddie V. You guys can follow me on Twitter at that Retro Code and check out Optional Opinion. Also check out Nintendo Pod Blog that I do with Corey. And also check out Boss Rush Podcast, where me, Corey, and Jesse come together and talk about various things in the game community. Also check out Arsenal X, our Xbox podcast. And yeah, so everybody have a great week. Have a great weekend. As always, be better to one another and let's continue to play games. And just be kind and respectful to one another and lift everybody up, because definitely by the time you guys hear this, there's a lot of things going on in the world, whether it's COVID, whether it's protests and things like that. We want to continue to uplift people and encourage people, because kindness goes a long way. So with that, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you, Delvin, for coming on, and we will see you next time on 1v1. With that, everybody, we'll see you. Bye.
Peace.
Yeah, I really don't know what to say or do. Donated, yes, I could do, that's fine, but it's just like, you really can't say, you really can't do nothing else but see how things play out. Because I'm like, they already got him. And
Yeah.
so now what goes forth is still the investigation, and then it's going to be the court. So like, y'all protesting, yes. Rioting, yes. But where do you guys go from here now? Do you guys stop, or are you guys going to do this just all week long?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I don't know where do you go from here and how far does it go. I would think the protest and rioting would stop personally, but I don't know. It's been going on so long now. I don't know if they want to stop, because this is not a new thing. This is something that's been bubbling over for a while. You know what I mean?
Yes, but you wouldn't expect it in Minnesota, in a sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm still trying to catch up on the Louisiana when I guess some cops busted in her house and killed her. Is that the thing?
That is exactly the story. Busted in the house and killed her. That's the best way you can say it. Best way you can describe it.
Was she innocent, or was they doing a stakeout, or like what was the purpose of it? Did they?
If I remember correctly, they were going after her boyfriend or some bullshit like that, and for a sting, and the sting was wrong, and they ended up killing her.
Okay, I'll have to read it, because I'm just like, I don't. Yeah, it's just the George Floyd story kind of took over, and her story just like, oh, someone else got killed.
Yeah, and then you had the whole story about what happened in the park. So.
Oh yeah, but that one got resolved. So.
Yeah.
All right. So what 1v1 is that it's me interviewing you, and you talk about your podcast and talk about you being a content creator, and we just have a fun time having a discussion. This is
So,
separate from optional opinion to
so you
let you know.
stole my whole idea for the Delvin Cox Experience and made it you son of a bitch.
Actually, oh, my friend is going to be like, no, that was my idea. I didn't know. No, ours is a different one. This is one for the network, not for my personal thing. I would never steal nobody else's idea. That's not my stilo. I try not to do that. I promise.
I'm joking, Eddie. I stole the idea from Arsenio Hall. It's okay. It's not like
uh,
being a host is new.
so, all right, here we go.
I'm ready when you are.